Abusia, without wasting much time, yet more ransom ma, and then yet that Parliament is doing the vetting of the various ministerial nominations. Our President John Dramani Mahama Yeye, Nene, the first person Parliament vetting, that's a guso koso at Forson. Na at Forson tenasino, and Simbi Pio, and yes, usual munim. Afenyo Markin then in sense in some way or try to play some tricks or hobby like I don't know on the deputy chairman and the vetting committee na and chairman here Honorable Bernard here for or one of the MPs of free voter region by on one side deputy first speaker or parliament now on the chairman but Asena atu Afenyo Markin person wajin adwuma ye nti like the penchen kakra esi ho mum yenko hwede e course of parliament.
Questioning is Koko Asante. By the rules you have to ask 3 questions and supplementary question will be subject to the discretion of the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, congratulations.
Thank you.
I know you mean very well for the country, Ghanaians. You've been a deputy minister, so I know you come with a lot of experience. But honorable nominee, I'd like to just indicate that your answers here carry a lot of weight. The investor community, both local and international, are watching and listening to every statement that you make here today. So I just want to, I know that you'll be mindful. Of course, there's no pressure. My first question, Mr. Chairman.
Well, honorable members, when you are asked to ask question, proceed to ask the question and let's limit the commentaries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Wait.
I just wanted to congratulate.
Wait. Please put off your mind. Chairman, with the greatest respect. Chairman, it's not just a guide. The member is a new member. We have all practiced at the bar. We know what some of these things do to a person on his or her feet. I beg of you one more time. We are here to cooperate with you. Let's be tolerant. You've been in the minority before. You know what it is. Because this vetting, although it is majority minority, you know that the work itself is being done by the minority. So please allow members to flow. I beg of you. I want us to have a very decent engagement and be stable in all we're doing. I'm begging you.
Patrick Bama.
Chairman, thank you very much. I think the finance minister's position, like Honorable Koko rightly said, is very, very important. We know what the leader is made of. But sometimes some foundations ought to be laid to guide the nominee in his answers. Because she said the investor community, both locally and internationally, will be watching and listening. And these are very important partners in our growth program. So if she's going to ask a question that the investor community will be interested in, please, she ought to be given the opportunity to lay some foundation to the question. It doesn't hurt anybody. Thank you.
Chairman, I just want to appeal to all colleagues, especially the respected minority leader. I've been around this table and I saw when Honorable Ato Forson was the ranking and Honorable Joe Wise was the chair. What I saw was I didn't see Honorable Ato Forson trying to be co-chair. At the moment, so far, people watching might think you are a co-chair. So I'm just appealing to you. Your role in this is very important. Without a doubt, it's very important. So for the viewing public, we'll just plead that the two of you should manage such that the interaction between the two of you does not appear as if there's a struggle for for power. So I don't have much to say that we have started well, but if possible, let there be one chair which we all defer to, and then we can make progress. So we good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All members, we had a preliminary meeting and we agreed on the roadmap. Therefore, I will not be happy where the committee will resume work and will be denigrating. So, honourable members, ask a question. Please proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
As I've taken, I notified. Chairman,
the ranking cannot interject anytime you speak. It's completely out of order. You cannot interject anytime the chairman speaks. You are not the chairman of this committee.
Chairman, thank you very much. I tapped you for your leave, and I didn't just get up to make an input. Chairman, also with the greatest respect to you, in all humility, please, this situation where you are more or less directing the member, please, I will not co-chair with you. I know my position. I'm the ranking. I'm pleading with you too. You and I are practitioners, and we know what some of these comments mean. So please allow the member to put her thought together. She's a new member, her first time in this exercise. She is a woman. Let us allow her to build her confidence. Let us allow her to flow. Let us allow her to lay the necessary foundation upon which the question will be mounted, so that the people watching and listening would appreciate, so that the member, the nominee himself, will also appreciate the question. So I am pleading with you. I would not co-chair with you. I have cooperated with you thus far. I will not stand in your way. We are in this together. But please tolerate the views we express, and we'll do so in utmost respect to you. Please. Thank you very much.
Please proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, you're on record, I believe on January 9th, it was reported by Reuters, that you're going to request additional financing from the IMF. What proposal do you intend to present to the IMF?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, inaccurate reportage. I did not say I am going to request for additional financing from the IMF. Inaccurate. What I said was we could request for additional finances if the need arises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question.
My second question, honorable nominee, is Ghana, like many other countries, depends on taxation as one of the major sources of revenue to fund development. As a matter of fact, one of the conditions of the IMF, the current arrangement with the IMF, is to enhance local revenue mobilization. The NDC party promised Ghanaians to scrap a number of taxes. So how do you intend, if you're given the nod as the Minister of Finance, to bridge the revenue gap?
Nominee, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, let me say this is an excellent question. Mr. Chairman, Ghana currently collects approximately 13.8% of GDP in terms of tax revenue, according to the latest data I've cited as part of the transition. It is obvious that we can do better. I've studied the Ghana economy for some time, And I can say without mentioning a word that Ghana has huge potential when it comes to tax revenue mobilization. You don't necessarily have to increase taxes before you rake in revenue. You have the handles. What we need to do is to improve compliance. I will work with the JRA, the tax policy unit of the Ministry of Finance, to ensure that we increase compliance and to raise the revenue as much as we can. In the medium term, it is my vision, when approved, to increase the revenue from 13.8, tax revenue from 13.8% of GDP to about 16 to 18%. That will be able to compare ourselves to our peers. I believe the potentials are out there. It doesn't necessarily mean we should increase taxes. Yes, we have obviously announced that we are going to scrap certain taxes. We'll stick to just that. But it doesn't also mean that we don't care about the revenue. We care about the revenue. And we will have to do more on revenue. But it doesn't necessarily mean we should increase taxes. Some of the taxes out there are not bringing in the revenue that it should. For example, the betting tax is bringing in less than 50 million Ghana cedis a year. It's a nuisance tax. Scrapping 50 million Ghana cedis will not mean anything in a way that will affect the economy if you are to adjust, particularly from the expenditure side. I mean, the noise with the betting tax and all does not comprehend the imposition of such a tax. And so I believe that scrapping such a tax will not necessarily affect the forward march of the Ghanaian economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your last question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Historically, there have been a lot of macroeconomic policy focus on inflation and exchange rates. Yet the AGI and others in the private sector still complain of high interest rates affecting their businesses. So what are you going to do, given a nod, differently? What are you going to do differently to ensure that our macroeconomic policies are more effective in lowering interest rates for the private sector? Thank you.
Thank you. I think government has a key role to play in this, particularly the fiscal authorities. I say this because if the country is actively in the market borrowing every week, I mean, if you look at the T-bill market today, every single week we roll over 111 billion Ghana cedis. And if you were to roll over 111 billion Ghana cedis week in, week out, the exchange rate, the interest rate will certainly go up. And you should also understand that interest rate sometimes is a function of inflation. And that is why personally, I believe there is the need for us to immediately work to bring inflation down. And then also work in such a way that we can stabilize inflation, stabilize the exchange rate, and create jobs. Until we do such a thing, certainly the concerns you've raised will still be there. And there's a lot of work we have to do. It starts from the fiscal authorities. We need to cut expenditure. The time is now. We have to cut the waste. And if you cut the waste, certainly you'll be able to you will not be able to, you will certainly go to the market in a careful way that you will not be borrowing as much as you are borrowing today. And that in itself, you won't crowd out the private sector and you will be bringing down the inflation in a way that interest rate will come down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minority Leader, the ranking member, has one follow-up question.
Thank you. Chairman, thank you very much. Leader, you said in a response to our respected colleague's question about tax revenue that as a nation we don't need to necessarily raise revenue through taxes. I mean, that's then clarified so that I can lay the proper foundation, please.
Mr. Chairman, I did not say that.
I just want you to clarify the point then.
I said we do not necessarily have to raise tax revenue by increasing the tax rate. It doesn't mean the same.
So how do you juxtapose that within the context of your previous position in respect of incentives to the private sector? We've had a private sector policy by the previous government where the whole intent was to free the space for the private sector so that they can invest more, so that they can employ more. You held a position strongly against that incentive, that taxes be necessarily imposed on raw materials that are imported for manufacturing purposes in the country, on equipment that are imported for manufacturing in the country, and all others. How do you juxtapose that?
Mr. Chairman, my position.
Honorable nominee, before you come in. Honorable Mama Yarga is on point of order.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, the nominee did not say that taxes should not be imposed on raw materials. The issue was whether or not taxes already imposed should be received or exempted by this House. So let's communicate accurately.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ayalga. The nominee is capable of answering the question, so proceed to answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my position on tax exemptions are well known. I do not intend to hide from that, and I won't hide from that. Mr. Chairman, tax exemption is gradually becoming a major source of tax expenditure in our fiscal framework. Unfortunately, it's not properly targeted, and so you see a situation where we exempt huge volumes of our taxes to particular companies. At the same time, because we are exempting those taxes, we end up increasing these tax rates for so many other people to pay. I believe everyone else must be given the opportunity to pay taxes. My concern, particularly with the one that you are making reference to, I'm sure it has to do with 1D, 1F. It is not transparent enough. I do not believe that certain individuals must be privileged enough to get tax exemptions, whilst others doing the same should not be given the opportunity to get tax exemption. And I have contended in the past that if the government insists on tax exemption for 1D, 1F, they should put it in the law and allow everyone else to benefit from such tax exemption. My main concern, particularly my criticism against the 1D, 1F, has to do with the opaque manner that it has been done in the past. And I still stand by that. If the government, or if this current government still believes that tax exemption 1D, 1F is irrelevant, then obviously my suggestion is put it in the law. Let everyone benefit from it, but don't pick and choose and decide who should benefit from such a tax exemption. I think it's wrong, and taxation must be fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your last follow-up question.
Chairman, thank you. Leader, I'm making this point as a result of what you just said. Yes, you complain of the lack of transparency. But for the records, and Honorable Yabuama is here, he chaired the committee. You may recall that as a result of those concerns, government at the time was able to meet those concerns to the extent that there was even a waiver on one item, raw materials. In fact, let me say not waiver, the raw materials component was taken out of the whole exemption. And through scrutiny, the request was very much reduced. Would you say that it was purely political because those concerns were addressed? But you still said no.
Mr. Chairman, I have no regrets for saying no. I have no regrets in the sense that when these taxes were introduced, tax exemptions were introduced to us in this House, initially we were called upon to exempt approximately $458 million. Upon my insistence, the Minister of Finance went back to working together with the Minister for Trade and brought it down to about $100 million. So straight away, I saved the nation approximately $400 million, about $358 million, obviously because of my insistence. I still felt there was the need for us to do more. And that 100 million, I could still see things that I disagree. And so, Mr. Chairman, I have no regrets, and I think I did what is right for Ghana and for all of us. Because clearly, it wasn't right for us to grant some of those tax exemptions. I wasn't alone. Colleagues from the Finance Committee agreed with me, and together we fought it. But obviously, I did not champion this alone. Let me also use this platform to pay tribute to Honorable Kweku Kwati. Honorable Kweku Kwati was instrumental in the fight against this tax exemption, because he agreed with me that these taxes were certainly not right, and we are working for Ghana. And if we can save 558 million, look at Accra Kumasi Road. We could use that money to fix the Accra Kumasi Road. I think it wasn't necessary for us to approve that tax and those concerned. It's not personal, it's not political, but we did it with the right intention, obviously for God and country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's now the turn of Honorable Foko Junibua.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable Castle Atoban Forson, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Being nominated as Minister Designate for Finance. I've got a few questions. The first one, can you tell us how you are going to fund the government machinery, given that now there is no appetite for lenders to give money on long term, and the money market segment is already crowded, as you initially alluded to. So how are you going to fund government machinery? Lenders are not ready to give long term. The money market end is already crowded. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in the short term, we need to... Mr. Chairman, in the short term, we need to bring confidence back. It's as important as anything. My proposal is for us to immediately introduce a very strong budget, signaling that we are ready to do the heavy liftings. That first budget will indeed send the right signal that Ghana is ready to open our doors for investors to come into the country. I believe if we are to introduce strong measures, particularly from the expenditure side, we will be able to bring inflation down to 8% plus or minus 2. In doing so, we'll be able to reopen the domestic bond market so that we can move away from the over-reliance of the treasury bill market. And so we'll be able to, at a minimum, smoothing the harms that has been created as a result of the domestic debt exchange and the Eurobond. And so we need to bring confidence back. But you know, if you are confronted with a situation where you do not have financing, then there's the need for you to look within. Let's deal with expenditure. Let's cut expenditure. Let us not pretend that there's money out there for us. Just like it has been done in somewhere, we can also do it here. My proposal is, let's look at the expenditure side as well. It shouldn't always be borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. It's time for us to cut the waste, and so I will lead the process to cut the waste. And I will need you, honorable members, to help me cut the waste so that we live and stay within the envelope that we can. But when push comes to shove, obviously, we will work with our development partners, such as the Africa Development Bank, the World Bank, the European Union, and other bilateral agencies, including the IMF, to raise cheaper sources of financing to finance government expenditure, particularly where expenditures that can lead to a proper growth and inclusive growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Thank you, Minister Designate. My second question, you've already given a hint on it, which relates to tax exemptions. Particularly, what I want to hear from you or what I would expect you to tell this committee, is that the Exemptions Act of 2022 at 1083 allows the states to take equity stake in entities that apply for tax exemptions. This has never been applied, though the Act allows it. Can you tell this committee that under your regime, you'll be bold enough to apply this aspect of the Act, that entities that come for tax exemptions, you'll be ready to go in for equity stake for this country? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's now great. We've done one, I think last year. Honorable Abina will bear me witness. Honorable Kweku Kwarteng championed it. In fact, I seconded the motion for us to set the tone and allow to implement the Tax Exemption Act, particularly the portion that allows government of Ghana to take equity stake. So we've done once, and as a champion against tax exemptions, and someone who insists that tax exemption must also count, you can count on me that I will do whatever it takes, that when push comes to shove, that we have to grant tax exemption. The country must benefit. You can count on me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So everyone has heard and will be watching. My third question. You know, it is commonly known that we generate really nothing much from the informal sector when it comes to taxes. And if you look at the mid-year budget of 2024, if you look at page 107, you realize that tax from PAYE, if you look at the revised budget, it's about 21.113 billion cedis. Whereas taxes from self-employed for the same period is just about 1.572 billion cedis. So this is a ratio of 13 to 1. So the formal sector, PAYE, revenue from those taxes, is 13 times what we get from all the self-employed. So the gap is so big. What would you do practically to close this gap? A gap of 13 to 1. What would you do practically?
Remember, this is a very valid question and very interesting one. I think there's a genuine concern. First, we need to formalize the informal sector. Second, we need to encourage them to formally register with the Revenue Authority. And third, we need to incentivize them. We can learn from Uganda. Uganda has been able to incentivize the informal sector. And as such, they are collecting more taxes from the informal sector than most of sub-Saharan African countries. The question is, what have they done? What Uganda did was to agree through tax education that a percentage of whatever you pay will be used as your pension contribution, even as the informal sector. And so my proposal is, why can't we encourage, or through taxes education, encourage the informal sector by instituting an informal sector pension scheme where you will plow back, let's say 30%. It doesn't mean quote me for 30%. Let's say 30% of whatever you pay as your contribution from your income tax, as your contribution to to formalize the informal sector and to incentivize them to pay. The options are there. I'm open for advice. I will listen, and I'm ready, as when approved as minister, to work with all of you to see what we can do to allow the informal sector also to contribute their widow's mite towards the development of our dear country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will then move to the majority side to take questions from the leaders of the Finance Committee. Start Martin from Honorable Azikadongo.
Thank you very much, Chairman. First, I want to congratulate my honorable colleague, with whom I have worked closely over the years. But also to thank His Excellency for the privilege to bring a thoroughbred finance person from this house, who was involved in oversight for 6 years and practice in government for another 4 years. When I was invited, I asked myself, what questions are there to ask Honorable Forson? Because we have always been on this side preparing solutions, and I have been in meetings where you and I have led conversations on the way forward to save our country.
Honorable Azika,
all I can say here is that
commentary and go straight to the question.
I believe that my colleagues are better placed because I know your quality and what you bring on board. So I have nothing to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Adongo. It's now the turn of Richard Achampong.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Leader, congratulations. I've worked with you since 2013 to date, so I know what you stand for. So, Mr. Chairman, I have only one question for you. Mr. Nominee, how do you plan to address the country's fiscal challenges and ensure debt sustainability? Thank you very much.
Honorable Nominee, your answer.
Mr. Chairman, Ghana's debt management in the past few years has been a major cause of concern. It is sad to know that the country has gone through a very difficult debt exchange, domestic. It's also sad to note that we had to restructure our Eurobonds. In order not to repeat the past mistakes, we intend to establish an independent debt management office. But in the meantime, we have a major hump that we have to deal with. For example, on the 18th of February, about 6.8 billion Ghana cedis will be due for payment. It is our responsibility to make sure we pay. And the Ministry of Finance, I believe, at this time are preparing to make that payment. My responsibility is to make sure what has happened in the past does not repeat. And so I will do just that. I will work with the Ministry of Finance. I will work with our development partners. I will do whatever it takes to avoid a second wave of the crisis we faced in 2022. That I can assure you.
Thank you very much. Any further question? In the absence of any further question, it's now the turn of Honorable Agnes Namomo Latte.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to ask the nominee. I will begin by congratulating the Honorable Leader for this high office being nominated to. I would want to find out from the Honorable Nominee his general vision for revenue mobilization. We've heard bits and pieces, and it's exciting to hear more what your vision is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may proceed to answer the question.
Thank you very much. I worked under Honorable Setepe for 4 years, an astute tax practitioner. I learned under him. He used to meet the revenue authorities once every fortnight. As a result, we saw our revenue improving. What I can assure you is that learning from an honorable set and seeing the way our revenue increased in the shortest possible time, I'll go by the same approach. But aside that, I would dedicate considerable amount of my time towards revenue mobilization.